And very pleased to be here today with around like more than 90 participants. It's like crazy IGAD meeting. Well, I wanted to talk to you about AgroPortal, a vocabulary and ontology repository for agronomy. This is a product that we are developing at the University of Montpellier with some partnerships that I will mention also. I'm Clement Jonquet, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Montpellier in the Laboratory of Informatics, and I've been for a long time interested in dealing with ag data, and especially through the development of ontology-based services and things like that I'm going to present today. So let's move. So this is kind of a follow-up of a presentation that was done originally when the project was kicked off in 2016, but then also had another occasion to talk about fair ontologies in the context of the plenary at RDA in 2018. So, but I never had a very real chance to present AgroPortal with functionalities and all the things we are interested in this project. So, so let's just start with a quick introduction. Why ontologies are important in science. They've been mentioned several times already in the talks today. Control vocabularies, ontologies, semantic resources in general. They are representation of sharing of scientific knowledge. They are very important to annotate experimental data and enable interpretation, comparison, discovery across database, things like that. I mean, we all know about, for example, the gene ontology success story and all of those databases using the gene ontology as a common denominator. Our problem is that ontologies are spread out in different formats of different sizes with different structures. Ontologies, just the numbers of ontologies in ontology repositories such as the Bioportal has exploded over the last years, the last 10 years, I would say. Then there is a variety of representation language that can be used for those semantic resources, from RDF schema to OWL, including also SCOS, that is a format that is well adopted in the agronomy domain. And then, of course, there is this question of overlapping ontologies. So I will mostly use the term ontology, but you can take that as a broader term for semantic resource, control vocabularies. The services that we provide are for this kind of semantic resources. So why ontology repositories are important? They basically help you to answer a few questions like that. If you build an ontology, how do you let the world know? If you need an ontology, where do you get it? Or do you know whether an ontology is any good or appropriate for your use case? Or do you find data resources that are relevant for the domain of the ontology or specific term in that ontology? I mean, the ontology repository could be a place that links your ontology to some data. Or could you leverage your ontology and enable new science without being the one managing them, dealing with them? So those were the important question for us at the very beginning of the project, with that vision that if you share ontologies, then you will become more a user of ontologies or facilitate the life of the users of ontology and just facilitate managing them. So basically, ontologies repositories help to make ontologies fair. I mean, we are now in the fair world, and fair standing for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And we believe that it's important also that those vocabularies that are used to produce fair data has to be themselves fair. That was the subject of the presentation I gave to IGAD in 2018. And the screenshot that I'm using here under each letter are taken from that platform that I'm going to present called AgroPortal. So the ontologies available on AgroPortal are more findable. They are searchable through search indexes and also search engine like Google find them quite well. They are accessible behind API database, Sparkle endpoints. They are more interoperable also because we connect those ontologies one another. We map them, or we try to work on mapping, or I should say, and we make them more reusable by describing them, things like that. Okay, designing ontology repositories has a bunch of challenges that I'm not going to go through, but I just want to mention that it's for us a computer science and technical challenge that we like to address, dealing with ontology alignment, the description of ontology, multilingualism. I had the pleasure last year at the same time of the year to present my habilitation defense on this subject, that showing that all of those technical objectives that we have in dealing with ontology repository and ontology-based services. And in the context of AgroPortal, we do that for the agronomy domain. So AgroPortal was a proposition for a vocabulary and ontology repository for agronomy, so a thematic portal where we would like to develop and support a reference ontology repository, being the place where people can share and access ontologies with a primary focus on agronomy, agriculture, plant sciences, food, a little bit of ecology and biodiversity at the beginning, but we will probably give those resources to another structure now. The idea was to avoid implementing the wheel and reuse the work that was done in other communities, like the NCBio Bioportal technology, which is the base for our technology. So Bioportal was an application developed originally at Stanford for the biomedical domain, and we figured out that a lot of people were interested in having such a domain, such a platform, sorry, for their domain around agronomy. With the idea of enable straightforward use of agronomic-related ontologies, following a little bit more the specificity of the agronomic community, of still embracing the semantic web and the technologies and approach, and enable new science in the target domain. Well, AgroPortal, as I said, was based on the NCBio Bioportal technology, and I keep that slides from Bioportal from a long time ago to show the types of services that the platform offer, and we are very close to those services. So you have those ontology services that are to search, traverse, comment on ontology. You have those mapping service that helps you to work with creation, and but also uploading, maintaining an ontology mapping repository, so mapping services. You can use those UI widget that you can use in your website to kind of search throughout the terms in an ontology and plug your application to ontology terms directly to incorporate ontology terms in your data. You can also annotate text data with the annotator that I will mention. And Bioportal used to have a data access service that we haven't reactivated in AgroPortal. And we deal a little bit differently with the access to data with partner projects, for example, like AgroLD, which is an RDF database, knowledge base of data in the agronomy domain. And all of that was accessible through a UI and through a web service endpoint. This is kind of the similar environment we have now on AgroPortal. So this is a series of screenshots of AgroPortal that show the page. You will have more information if you go to the reference publication. On AgroPortal, you can publish, search, download ontologies, browse them, visualize them. You have those mechanisms for peer review. You have all those systems for versioning, so we keep all the version of the ontologies and their metadata description also. We have an annotation and recommendation service, mappings, notes, projects, all of that in a unique environment there. As of today, we had 122 ontologies, and we keep that level of candidates for about more than 4 or 5 years now. We have around 90 candidates ontologies, which really means that each time we add new ontologies and vocabularies to the portal, then we discover more, and so add them to our candidate list that we maintain internally in the team. Originally, the portal was driven by 5 original driving agronomic use cases. I had different chances to present them, but I will just mainly mention, for example, one of the group of the RDA, IGAD, the Wheat Data Interoperability Working Group, work on identifying what were all the terminologies and ontologies and vocabularies that would be appropriate for wheat data. And so we offer the group an environment in which they can access only the wheat-related ontologies and vocabularies, and that was one of the use cases. We can also mention the vocabulary developed by INRAE in France, or the different crop dictionary developed by the Crop Ontology Project, also developed by Bioversity International. So, well, those were the original use cases, but we have seen a growing interest in the community over the last 4 or 5 years, with an important involvement in the area Semantics Working Group. Now we have the GoFair Food System Implementation Network that some of you have heard about. We have an important research project in France called D2CAP that said a word about that at the end. And we have seen AgroPortal being adopted by different projects like FIS, a tool for phenotyping, data, AgroLD that I mentioned, and different working groups. We have organized a couple of hackathons with around the topic of semantics and the use of ontologies. And so now we have a few resources in AgroPortal. They go from different trade dictionaries or from the crop ontology project, for example, but they also include reference taxonomies like the NCBI organism classification, the INRAE thesaurus or the AgroVoc thesaurus, those reference thesaurus developed by reference organization. We kind of maintain this environment with a specific focus on agriculture and agronomy. So we organize ontologies in groups and categories, which kind of facilitate, show the customization of the portal. As I mentioned, for example, there is a lot of resources related to plant phenotypes and traits. Some resources in agricultural research, technology and engineering, things like that. So we group those ontologies in formal groups, and you can also access a part of the portal through what we call a slice. So if you want to see only the ontologies in the crop ontology project, then you can go to the crop.agroportal.lirmm.fr URL, and you'll get only a portal that will show you the content of that group. And that will be available for all the services in the portal, including search, annotation, recommendation, etc. So if we go through a little bit the description of the portal features, I'm searching for the clock on my screen. It's not there anymore. Oh yeah, I got it. I mean, the basic role of AgroPortal is to describe an ontology with semantic metadata. So we customize a little bit of the platform compared to what NCBO proposed with Bioportal in order to include maximum level of metadata description with the vision of better describing the resources in order to facilitate the process of selecting them. And we try to adopt the semantic web principle in doing that. I mean, encoding the values of those metadata property with URIs and things like that. And we can try to encourage the community to edit and create those metadata. I've seen that, Cynthia, thanks. So this is one of the features we have on the portal description. We can search, browse, and select ontologies on the UI. You have that faceted search interface that helps you find out the ontologies of interest, still with the vision of selecting these ontologies. And then finally, the basic page on AgroPortal is a page where you will see the terms in a hierarchy on the left and get the detail for those terms, and you can use them to describe your data. Here, for example, the forest area as a proportion of total land area in one of the ontology in the portal. We work on that thing that we call the AgroPortal landscape, being a place where we have several vocabularies and ontologies. We're interested in being able to show, using that metadata information, information taken at the global level of all the ontologies in the portal. There is a reference publication for that, but the idea is to see the users, the organization that are important in the domain, or the properties, or the different groups, or the different properties that will be used per ontology, things like that. So if I give a few examples, you'll see, for example, what are the most frequent license of terms or language of terms used, what are the most frequent size of ontologies. You could see also for information about the community. Those tag clouds will be generated by the system on the fly. And if you get we try also to capture that information about ontologies and their link, so that diagram kind of show how at the metadata level, the trait ontology is formally aligned to the different ontology in the crop ontology project. That is the work done by Marie-Angélique Laporte. And also to some other ontologies like the soil ontology that was developed aside of the crop ontology project. Well, our objective is now to kind of do a fairness level, an assessment of the fairness level of the ontologies in AgroPortal. So now we are working in reusing those metadata description to show to the community the level of fairness for a given ontology in the portal. And this is what we are working right now, trying to encourage the addition of metadata, curate that metadata, and then use an algorithm to evaluate the level of fairness. I want to review a couple of other features. Well, AgroPortal is automatically harvested in fair sharing. Some of you may know that. I will pass on that quickly. I want to mention the AgroPortal annotator, which is a service that helps you to give text data and get some annotation out of this text data. Those annotations will help you to structure your data, your data provided with text. You can select the ontologies in which you want to have your target. You can score. You have score that are provided for those batch. So if you have one day some kind of a series of phenotypes or trait for cassava, for example, you can give them to the annotator, select the appropriate ontology, for example, the cassava trait ontology. You get those annotation in which what we are interested in are those URIs that really tells you which system, which concept has matched in your system. And from that URI, you can connect back to the trait ontology and make some data more interoperable because of those annotations. We also have a recommender service that for some data or some text data will help you find out what are the ontology the most appropriate for your data. This is called the ontology recommender. This is something that was developed originally in BioPortal. Well, we deal with the question of ontology alignment in the context of AgroPortal, of course, because every time you start working with different vocabularies, then you have different kinds of overlap. We have recently analyzed the reuse, the term overlap, and the mappings between those ontologies, and we capture them, and we are submitting a paper on this topic in a conference soon. But you can see this network of ontologies. We think that we are kind of the place also to capture this kind of information. So we have different works on ontology alignment, and I will pass on that. I can make the slide available, but we can store different kind of alignments, and we are working on with our communities to extract those alignments, and we have a vision for a future framework, what we call an ontology alignment framework inside AgroPortal, where we will facilitate the life of users with ontology alignment and get all of the info about that cycle that I call the all aspect of ontology alignment, but I will not detail on that more now. So finally, I want to insist that everything is accessible through an API, a Sparkle endpoint. This is kind of very important for us, facilitating the use of ontologies through API and through Sparkle endpoint. So if you drop your ontology in AgroPortal, an hour after when it's parsed, you have a Sparkle endpoint for that ontology. Well, as a conclusion, I just wanted to mention our new project now supporting the AgroPortal project called DataCAD. It's a project that we have in France with different actors called Data to Knowledge in Agronomy and Biodiversity, where we are interested in building knowledge graph for the agronomy and biodiversity domain. So please follow up, and you can also check the webpage for that. And I wanted to mention also as a last slide that we all develop and maintain ontology repository now in a consortium called the OntoPortal Alliance, with the partnership we have with Stanford, but also a partnership we have also with LifeWatch, Eric, that builds a portal dedicated to ecology and biodiversity. And we build together the same technology and maintain that technology. Well, as a take-home message, I will just say that ontologies are important. The semantic webs are technologies and approach are a means to realize that vision that ontology can help for data integration. We offer AgroPortal trying to facilitate the annotation of data, for example, making data fair, all of that in the context of the DataCAD project now. Credit and support, of course, all of that has not happened by myself alone, but also with the credit and help for some agencies and funds. On these, I will take some questions if you have and pass the